Hi, my name is Rogelio Garcia from Auro restaurant in Napa Valley, and you're listening to Ingredient Insiders.
This is Ingredient Insiders. I'm John Magazzino.
And I'm Andrea Parkins.
On each episode of Ingredient Insiders, we'll be speaking with chefs and food writers about their favorite ingredients.
We then speak to the producer of that ingredient to learn its history, how it's made, and why chefs love to use it in their restaurants.
On today's episode, we're going to be talking about a very interesting subject. It's almost going to be a little bit scientific, I think. We're talking about dry-aged beef today, and I'm pretty excited about this one.
Absolutely. I mean, dry-aged beef, I think, I've learned a lot about it through my years at Chef's Warehouse.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think you either really like it or you don't.
There's dry-aged, there's wet-aged.
Yeah.
Do you like dry-aged beef?
I do like dry-aged beef. I don't like it when I think sometimes it can be taken too far and you lose the beef flavor and you're just kind of tasting the funk.
Mm-hmm.
For me, that's not pleasant. I still want to be able to taste the steak.
Right.
So, for me, yes. What about you?
I love dry-aged beef. I also love wet-aged beef. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess I love beef. In particular, we're going to be talking about Katie Flannery today, of Flannery Beef.
Yep.
This is a family-run butcher in Northern California. They do dry-aged beef that, to me, is some of the best in the world.
Some of the best.
It's, to your point about sometimes dry-aged beef is very intense, very minerally, very funky, not to everyone's liking. When you try their beef, to me, the Flannery dry-aged beef, for whatever reason, and I'm sure we're going to find out after talking to them, it's just more intense beef flavor to me and not so much funky.
Right.
And I really love that. So I guess I'm kind of like you. I don't want something that's overly funky, but if it's really like amped up beef flavor, I'm all in.
I think sometimes people, or chefs, maybe they like to put, 28-day age or 45-day age, when really it might not even need that much age. And it's really like, let's try the actual beef itself and then make the decision versus just maybe like a trend of putting dry-aged beef on your menu. Yeah,
we're also going to have an amazing chef, Rogelio Garcia, who's from the Four Seasons in Napa Valley.
Yep.
And he just earned a Michelin star. I just learned that. And so he's great. He loves dry-aged beef and...
he grew up in Napa. Now he's working in Napa.
So this is going to be a real fun episode. Lots to learn. Talking all about dry-aged beef. This episode is in partnership with the Chef's Warehouse and produced by Gotham Production Studios in New York City. What a treat today, Andrea. We are in the studio in NYC, and you know why it's a treat?
Because someone flew all the way from California to sit with us this morning.
We are delighted to welcome Rogelio Garcia from the Four Seasons, Napa Valley, based in Calistoga. I can only imagine how beautiful this hotel is and your restaurant.
You're going to have to send us some pictures so we can dream.
Pictures? I want him to invite us to the hotel to do some kind of
friends and family
special event or something.
Done.
Awesome. Thank you for being here.
No, thanks for having me.
Yeah, this is a really great thing. We're going to talk about dry-aged meats today. But before we even go there, Rogelio, tell us a little bit about your career. You grew up in California.
I did.
How did you, and now you have one of the nicest chef positions probably in the country, being based at a Four Seasons hotel.
Your first Michelin star.
Napa, and congratulations on that too. Wow. Yeah. So much to talk about. Where did it all start for you? Like, who are some of your mentors? And
so I think, well, first of all, thanks guys for allowing me to come. I think it's super exciting, and it's such good weather in New York right now.
Oh, it's perfect. Yeah. This is fall in New York.
Is it?
Yeah, this is like the
crisp.
Yep.
No humidity.
Feels
not
like
too
California
cold.
a little bit.
Yeah.
You just need a light jacket.
I know.
New York gets this kind of nice weather for about 3 weeks of the year in September, October, if you're lucky.
I mean, I brought a beanie, a scarf, and pico, and I don't think I need it.
If you stay a week, maybe you'll use all of this.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, so, I started, my mother's an amazing cook. My grandmother, she used to cook for students when, at a school, and she had to have a menu every day of the week. And I think my mother picked some of those traits. And I seen my mother. Obviously, she's an amazing cook. As I grew up, classic Mexican food.
Love it.
She was born in Mexico City, and I was born in Mexico City, and then we came to the States when I was very young. Landed in Los Angeles, and then eventually made the move to Northern California. I have aunts and uncles that worked in restaurants and in the fields, and I think when I was 15, walked into a restaurant, my first job, and got the bug, and that's how
That was it?
That was it. That's how I started.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, going from rice and beans to caviar and lobster, and it just changed for me, and I want to do it for the rest of my life.
I love it.
Yeah.
Was there like a particular kitchen that you were in, or like a moment where it all kind of like came together and it was like, this is going to be my career?
Yeah. So I remember driving up from Los Angeles. My aunt lived behind the French Laundry, like in this apartment complex.
Mm-hmm.
And so at the time when we were driving up, we didn't have any GPS. You had to print out the sheets and
MapQuest
and do MapQuest.
Yeah.
And so my mother, we landed in Yountville and we were lost. And she's like, can you get out of the car and like, I think that restaurant is open. Can you ask him for directions? And so here I get out of the car and I open the door and I see this restaurant with these waiters that have these suits and ties, and it's all this copper and paintings on the wall, and I walk in and this young lady to the right, and she was the hostess, and I said, hey, like, I'm looking for this address. She's like, well, it's around the corner, and and then I read the sign and it said Bouchon, and I was like, wow, this is incredible. The smell, the pots and pans, like all this stuff that was happening, and I was like, wow, this could be a thing that I can do. And then eventually got my first job in Yountville at this massive resort where we used to do banquets of like 1,000 weddings, celebrations, anniversaries. And I was a dishwasher at the time, and I was going to high school, and then 8-hour shift, and did that until I graduated, and then fully went on. I had 2 boys, so I had 2 sons, 18 and 19, Daniel and Christian. And I think that just solidified to me, just take it even more serious and just.
Do they cook?
We've done a ton of events together. I don't think they want to do it professionally, but I've always invited them into like what I do, and I have photos of them like shucking peas when they were like 5 and 6, or cooking for 800 people at an event that we did. It was super easy, like paellas and chickens, but there's amazing boys.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Did your mom let you cook when you were young? Did you join her in the kitchen, or your grandmother?
Yeah, they did. I try to experiment. Like I remember making this pasta where I was just grabbing the spices out of the kitchen. I was trying to be fancy, and I added too much juniper berries to one of the pastas, and like she was like, this is not good. I think you gotta continue to work on it. But I would help her to like do chiles rellenos, which is a classic dish. That's one of her like favorite and my favorites. She used to make flan. Mm-hmm. We used to make these almost patties, like potato patties, that my grandmother kind of passed the recipe to her. And yeah, I mean, we used to cook together, and but she worked all the time. She was a nurse, she was a single mother. So all the moments that she had, like during the holidays, I was just treasured them, because we would never know when she was going to be back again. So,
do you feel like you bring the recipes, the flavors of like your upbringing to the dishes that you make today?
Yeah, it's harder. People always ask me, well, what kind of cuisine do you
like, what is your style?
What is your style? And then I say, well, I'm Mexican, right? But I'm a Mexican American, but I don't see as a Mexican that grew up in Mexico. Like my lens is a Northern California chef. So it's and mostly fine dining. Like I've always worked in fine dining, and so there's slight like bits on the tasting menu from Mexico, Japan, Italy. We just call it wine country cuisine, just because it's like a French style tasting menu. But there's all this. I love to like just explore what's good out there. Like if there's rice from Italy that we can use, we'll use it. Masa from Mexico, we'll use it. We'll tap into like the fish from Japan and use it. I just think whatever's great out there that we can track down and tell a story is what I enjoy. And I think that's been such an amazing, thing to do for the restaurant.
Tell us about your restaurant at the Four Seasons. You just got a Michelin star.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Oh, man, what a journey. Thank you.
That's
Thank
awesome.
you.
Did you know that they don't call you anymore when you get the star?
They always call me when I get.
I know you have like a million stars.
Whenever I get my stars, they call me.
But we were like chatting before this, and I was like, was it the best phone call of your life? And Rogelio was like, they don't call you anymore, which I didn't know.
I didn't know they ever called anybody, but I don't know anything about
Well, I think they used to call. So they used to get a call.
Yeah.
And they used to call the chef, and they would say, congratulations, or whatever that was. And now we just I got an invite, and we got added to the portal.
Yeah.
And so we didn't know what was happening. And then we were like, are we getting one or are we not? Because it was kind of like a review, but like an addition. So we didn't know. And then we get an invite to the actual gala. And I was like, okay, well, what is this? What does this actually mean? And then I had to do an interview with them like a couple of weeks after that. And then as the gala came up, there's all this media, but you don't know. And then you're sitting down in the auditorium, and it's literally like a BET award and an Oscar show. It's like, and then they call your name out, and you're up on stage. But until they call it, like I didn't know. And I was like, am I gonna get one, or am I gonna like walk out of here very embarrassed that I didn't get it? I got an invite and I'm not gonna get anything. So, no, but it was such a like surreal moment. I think for me, like it was always a dream. It was always a dream to be able to get it, and I mean, words can't express the feeling that you get. And as you're walking out of the auditorium, and like all these chefs are like saying congratulations and all that stuff, there was a chef that kind of shook my hand and said, "Oh," because he asked one, and it's like I'm so jealous of that feeling again, because you retain it, but it's not like the first one, like the first time.
What a great honor. Let's talk about dry aging meats.
Yes. This is something that you're doing in house, correct?
Well, when we dry age meats, we do them we use a couple producers.
Okay.
I think Flannery's the main one that we use.
Flannery beef, just down the road in San Rafael.
Yeah.
Is that up the road or down the road? It's
up the road.
Up the road.
Yeah.
Got to get my
get your bearings.
My NorCal bearings.
Yeah. So we use them. Amazing. Brian and Katie are incredible people. I used to live around the corner, actually. So during the pandemic, I used to do private dinners.
Yeah.
Just to get busy as everything was shut down, and he would let me go into the facility and like choose what I wanted to use for that event.
Awesome people.
Yeah.
We're actually gonna have Katie on after you and talk to her about their whole process.
Yeah.
She's a
mold enthusiast.
She's way into her bacteria and molds and. So that'll be a fun conversation. But so dry age beef, I always think of it as like an East Coast thing.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Yeah.
I don't know, like steakhouses for me are like East Coasty.
Because that flavor is very like, it's particular, and certain people love it and certain people don't.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm curious, as a California chef, what does dry age mean to you?
It's a great question.
And kind of, let's talk about that a little bit.
Well, I think it's such an artistry with anything else, right? I think when you serve the steak, right, to anybody who's doesn't understand it, they may think it's just like a steak, right? But it takes time to age it, right? Like it takes. I mean, I think the sweet spot, I think for I guess somebody is not totally experienced in those flavors. I think maybe like 18 days, I would say.
Okay.
But it's 18 days that it has to sit, right? So that's 18 days that before you even like you start talking about how, like the cattle and how it's slaughtered and all that practice is already 18 days before it even hits the plate. And so I think it's one of those things that I love, because just the fact that the time has to be there. And patience before it hits the plate is one of the things that I look for on especially with producers is what they do, right? And it's just like a tomato, like the amount of time that it takes, it's an incredible artistry to me. And so but I think it's the flavors, like it's almost like charcuterie blue cheese kind of goes great with Cabernets and like wines from France, and I love that. But I know for some people it might be like a little off-putting. It's tender as well. And I just think it's the minute I tasted it, or as I was becoming more experienced with those kind of flavors, it was incredible to use it. So, and I've been to the facility, The minute you open the doors and you see, I don't know if you guys, if you ever
I had
been.
the opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible.
It's like
you
walking through a maze there.
It is, and it just hits you.
Does the smell like hit you when you open, like when you walk
Oh,
in?
yeah.
Yeah, as soon.
And
Like
I
the
love
funk?
that smell.
Yeah.
What I find interesting about Flannery, though, is their beef, rather than becoming like overly minerally
Right.
and what I call like really funky,
Mhm.
which I tend to find in New York or East Coast
Yep.
dry age, theirs to me becomes beefier.
Yeah.
And I do agree also, it gets a little bit of that like blue cheese
Right.
aspect to it, but it's not like this hard, minerally metallic.
It's not
kind of
overpowering
thing.
the beef.
No, it
No,
makes
no.
it more intensely beef flavored.
Yeah.
If that
Yeah.
sounds,
Yeah,
that's,
for
that
sure.
was my impersonation.
Absolutely.
I love the Flannery beef because
so
of that.
good.
Let's talk a little bit about something that I think I've started to see a little bit more and more of is dry aging of fish, which you're doing at your restaurant.
Yeah.
That's why you're
Talk
here
to
in New York,
that,
right?
like,
That's right. Exactly.
I think it's almost like counterintuitive to a
Yeah,
lot of
I
people.
don't
Like
understand.
people think like fresh fish, catch it, serve it the day it came out of the water.
Yep.
That's the
Right.
best of the best. And I went to Japan a couple years ago, and even at a sushi restaurant, I was like, "Oh, the fish is the freshest. The fish is the freshest." And this amazing sushi chef was like, "No. I age my fish here." I was like,
Doesn't
"Oh,
that sound wrong when
so
someone
weird."
says that?
Yeah, because you think fish,
Yeah, it should be like fresh.
the fresher, the fresher.
Right.
Talk to us about dry aging fish. And
So
like,
the first time that I had it was at a restaurant I was working at the time. It's probably like 12 years ago, and we would dry bluefin tuna. So we would wrap it in this like fish towel,
Yeah.
and then we would put it on ice, and we would let it sit for about a week. And what came out was like almost this purple outside, and you kind of take it's similar to beef. You take that off,
you trim that off.
but all the tendons would be super like they were almost like it'd be super tender.
Yeah.
And so that was like the beginning of it. And then I work with Liwei from the joinery in Los Angeles, and he does an amazing job to dry age the fish. So he does turbot for us. He does amberjack, kampachis, black cod. Right now we use a fish that's wild called kinky from Japan.
Kinky, Andrea.
Kinky.
Yeah.
I like
I
that.
like that. Who doesn't want a kinky
I want a
fish?
kinky fish.
And
Did you say when we were chatting, you said scallops even?
scallops, you can do scallops.
So the fish purveyor actually does the aging?
He does the aging. He's got all the temperature control rooms and stuff like that. And then we'll send it to us, and then we'll keep them with the heads down. On our walking, and we'll just
That's very cool. I've never heard of that. So most of my experience with this is
It's like in-house.
I've heard the chefs are putting it and aging it themselves.
Yeah. And I think it's incredible. Just what we've done side by side tasting, like scallops, creamy. There's no water content in it. You're able to sear them better. Usually when it hits the pan, you get all this water.
Yep, just
and
caramelizes.
It's about 10% that you lose.
Yeah.
You said the skin doesn't stick?
It doesn't stick. So when you do like bronzino and you try to grill it, it'll stick. The skin is super thin and it'll stick to the grill. With this one, you get this leathery skin, and you could almost like slide it on the grill or in a pan, very little oil, and it has these like bursts that come out of it, almost like a chicharron.
How many days are people aging seafood for?
We'll do 7 to 10. You can get away with like 12, 14 days as well.
Wow.
And I think that's about the max, but it's just so tender.
Yeah. So I guess the the fibers, or I don't say fibers, but the
break
meat's
down.
starting to break down,
Right.
tenderize.
Just like beef. It's like you're taking a big stock pot and reducing all the way down. It just concentrates so much, and it's so tasty and flavorful. And the minute I tried it, I never wanted to go back. Like all the fish that we use for Auro, it's all dry aged.
Do you tell that story on the menu?
We do.
Or at the restaurant. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny because we'll have a joke kind of going around like, is it 7 days? Because we'll get the fish in on a Wednesday, and it's 7 days, and then we'll at 8 days on Thursday, 9 days. So we'll be like,
you change the menu every day.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So just to be exact,
Yeah.
but it's just it's one of those things where it's an upcoming technique. Definitely traces back to Japan, and it's just there's a lot of benefits to it. The cookery is incredible. I think black cod is such a winner for me because the skin is super crispy, and then the oils just come out like instead of the water content, you get those oils that come out, and it's so tasty.
A more intense fish flavor.
Right, but not in the right way. Like
Right.
it's not
Like you're tasting the cod.
exactly.
Got it.
Right. Same thing with scallops and amberjacks and yeah. So those are the fish. Turbot is incredible as well. And then halibut we'll use as well. Salmon, another winner.
Have you seen it on any New York menus, John?
I haven't seen it listed as dry aged.
Neither have I.
I went to visit a restaurant in Florida a couple years ago, and the chef showed me he bought this dry aging box, like a meat dry aging box,
Right.
but he had fish hanging in it.
Exactly.
And I was like, wow, this
Yeah.
is interesting. I'd
Yeah.
not really
Yeah.
seen this before. But then, the sushi, as I mentioned earlier, the sushi restaurants or the Japanese restaurants have done this for a long time.
Yeah.
Right.
Unbeknownst to me, I
Right.
always thought, again, fresher was better.
Mm-hmm.
But they're, wrapping things in kombu and letting them age for a long
That's right.
time and doing certain kind of other, maybe brushing with vinegar, preserving, and all these
Yeah.
other things. So
yeah.
it is really kind of cutting edge interesting.
Yeah.
Now, one thing it doesn't do, as far as I know, is develop like the molds, like dry aged beef.
It doesn't.
on the
no,
outside.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think if you don't do it right,
Yeah.
then it could be dangerous, just like everything else.
Yeah.
So if you see mold on the fish, don't eat it.
Don't eat it.
We should make an intro to Katie Flannery and see what she comes up with. She'll get these like green moldy crusts
Yeah.
on salmon and
She'll be like, "You're wrong, Andrea. You can eat the mold."
Yeah, but but it's been like bonito. It's a
Yeah.
Yeah.
like that's all the way. That's
It's
so
beefy almost.
It's yeah, exactly. So it's been done before,
Uh-huh.
except that this is just almost like just that sweet spot of like 7 to 10 days. But like bonito's been around since I started cooking.
Yeah.
I mean, even China, you go to like some of the the China markets, and they have like octopus this aged.
Sure.
It's super dry, and all these kinds of fishes that
well, let's
they've been
talk
using.
about, I'm Italian, cod and bacala.
yeah.
Like this
Oh, there you
is
go.
Salt
That's right.
cod, yeah.
dried till it's basically has to be reconstituted
Yeah.
Exactly.
and soaked and
Right.
all that stuff.
So we'll use that. We'll use like we'll do like salmon
Mm-hmm.
and age it all the way in a dehydrator, and then
Wow.
and then spin it. So we'll season salmon with salmon. So we'll make like a salt blend it with salt.
So you're
that's-
actually in New York to do an event tonight for
Right.
Auro King Salmon.
yeah.
Are you going to do a dry aged?
We're
Preparation?
they're doing a demo tonight.
Yep.
They're gonna break down a taiji or a king taiji,
Uh-huh.
which is the like 3-4 times the size of a regular salmon. And yeah, we got here last night around 3. We ate at this Cambodian spot in Lower East Side, and then we got back to the rooms at around midnight. And then we got up, ready to hit the Fulton market,
The Fulton Fish Market? Yeah.
fish market at 4 a.m. We were there, and then we went to Russ and Daughters for breakfast. It's just incredible. It was so good to see all those people there, and like we went to the produce market as well.
Uh-huh.
What a massive production that is!
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's incredible. I was telling Andrea about the amount of refrigerated food trucks that there are. It was like
Yeah.
it had to be like 80 to 100,
Yeah.
just ready to go everywhere. And the guy, he's like the main guy in charge of it. He was super pumped and excited to show us chefs, right? Like, this is my cooler for onions. This is the cooler for the apples.
Yeah.
And we get these from Mexico. And when Mexico's closed, we go to like Chile. And then, so he's, like Central Valley, California, we're getting this. And if we can't get it there, we'll go to Idaho. So he's just like, again, somebody who's so passionate about what he does that he's got these, 12 chefs in front of him, just ready to like explain what he does, and it's incredible when you meet somebody like that.
I'm glad you got the opportunity to see the Hunts Point
Yeah.
markets there.
Yeah. It's incredible.
And you also have a cookbook coming out, right?
I do.
Oh.
I do.
Tell us about the cookbook.
So the cookbook. So it started in the pandemic. We went to. It was an idea, and we worked on it for probably like 3 months, and then we scratched it. We're like, we're gonna start again. We didn't like it. And then we did it again. We signed with an agent, and then she kind of guided us. We were on the contract with her for a year, and probably a year to date. We were about to give up. We were like, we can't find anybody to sign us. Like, it's so difficult. And then we got 2 offers, and then we went to a local one in Northern California. and then we kept going. So when the book is released, it's going to be about 4.5 years project, 4.5 year project.
Wow, good for
So
you.
when we started, I asked everybody, I was like, how long is this going to take, you know? And it was like, well, it'll take you 5 to 7 years. And I said, no way, I can probably crush it in like a
6
year.
months. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, a typical chef, you know? And no, like it's a lot of work. You know, there's a full team of, you know, like a ghostwriter, editors, photography, recipe tester. I mean, you name it. There's just so many. And, but it's such an incredible feeling. Right now, we're just at the end. I have another 30 photos to go. And it's yet to be released in September 16th, which is Mexican Independence Day.
Nice.
So the book is called Convivir. And it translates to cooking or mingling with each other. And I think after everything, you know, we're able to come, you know, kind of no matter where you're from, history, ethnicity, religion, all that stuff, we were able to kind of come together on a plate. And the recipes are from Mexico, like classic recipes from Mexico. We wanted people to, you know, cook on Sunday when they're at home and take it and use it, and not to be like we had to take water from the ocean and cook these clams there and all this stuff that it was like almost like unreachable when we were approachable.
Yeah.
And it's just super exciting to
Awesome.
So when is it? Next September?
September 16th, 2024.
All right.
Love it.
Yeah. So
Amazing.
super exciting. Yeah.
You've had like quite the year.
It's been exciting. You know, to do all these projects, but I just feel like so blessed and lucky. Yeah. And
You know, as you know, we ask, you know, you have 2 kids, so I'm assuming you cook at home.
right. Yeah.
So we ask all the chefs, what are the 5 pantry staples that you cannot live without?
When you have kids,
Do you cook at home?
I do.
Or are you too busy? Okay.
No.
This is
I
great.
cook at home, and I think so.
Not just for kids, for like, what are the 5 things that you need at all times, no matter what,
I'm
in
all
your
times.
pantry?
Here.
Yeah, this is going to be good.
Always have to have a piece of bread, like some sort of good bread. Tomatoes. I love tomatoes. Avocado.
Yep.
Rice. You always have to have rice.
Yeah.
And then just any fruit that's in season, like figs, stone fruits, apples, pomegranates, like so because you can make a lot of stuff with that. You know, sandwich. You can make breakfast. I mean, you can make a fruit plate. I can eat an avocado with olive oil just like that and salt. So I think those are my favorite.
I love that.
Yeah, that was a good
It's
one.
a great Northern California answer.
Isn't it? It's
Yeah.
like,
It is.
You're right. I think that's yeah.
All the like New York chef, olive oil, salt.
Right.
I liked his.
Yeah.
I liked it a lot.
Yeah.
Well, this has been awesome.
Thank you.
Rogelio Garcia, Auro restaurant at the Four Seasons in Healdsburg. Andrew, we have to go.
Oh, yes.
Find some reason to get.
I think we can find a reason.
Yeah. I'll give you a
so
tour.
Awesome.
Thank you, Rogelio.
Thanks
you
for being
guys.
with us.
Thank you.
It was amazing.
Thanks for having me.
This season of Ingredient Insiders is brought to you by Bazzini Nuts. Bazzini is the brand of choice among chefs in the finest hotels and restaurants. Their legacy of quality extends to gourmet retail stores, specialty boutiques, grocery distributors, and delis, ensuring you have access to their extensive range of consumer retail packages. It all started in 1886 when Italian immigrant Anthony L. Bazzini began selling nuts by the pound to bakers, street vendors, and individuals during the Great Depression. But Bazzini Nuts isn't just about peanuts. They offer a delightful array of nuts like cashews, almonds, pecans, pistachios, hazelnuts, and more, plus a tempting selection of dried fruit, including apricots, cranberries, figs, dates, prunes, and tomatoes. So whether at the ballpark, in the kitchen, or indulging in some well-deserved self-care, choose Bazzini Nuts. With a legacy spanning 137 years, they're here to serve your needs with the same consistency, reliability, and quality, making them an iconic name in the world of nuts and dried fruits. Bazzini Nuts, tradition, quality, and taste all in one. Taste the legacy today.
I usually always start these shows saying like I'm so excited with
right.
this guest and what we're going to talk about, but today
Like a special guest.
what's more than like excited? What's the right word? Like I'm super excited.
Elated.
I am elated. I'm ecstatic.
Ecstatic. That's a
That's
great
what
word.
I am. We're here in California today with, and this is her new, I don't know if you've been called this before, but we're here with the dry age queen of beef, Katie Flannery. Is that a good nickname?
I think it's
like
a great
that.
nickname. Do you like it?
I'll take it. You know what? I've been called worse.
If you don't know, okay, so let me give a little background here. Katie Flannery and her father, Brian, run a company based in San Rafael, California called Flannery Beef.
Mm-hmm.
And they do a very specific type of beef. I don't want to talk too much about it because Katie's going to tell us about it.
Yep.
But they do dry aged beef. And Katie is so into how they make the dry aged beef. In June,
Mm-hmm.
I went to visit Flannery Beef in San Rafael. Katie's there with her butcher coat on. It's like a chic butcher look too. It's not like
it's not like a standard.
No, this
It's
is
not
like
chic. It's not
chic.
chic.
No, it's chic. It's a good butcher look.
Okay.
I was with my friend Matt Phillips. He's like, she's awesome.
Yeah.
Like this is like we had the best time. But she took us into the dry aging room
Mm-hmm.
and she was like going to show us what the secret ingredient was. And she had little petri dishes growing all different types of mold. And me and Matt were just like, this is absolutely the
Yeah.
coolest thing.
So Katie, tell us. I mean, I don't even know where to start.
Let's talk a little bit about the family history.
Yeah.
You're a third generation butcher.
Third generation butcher. Yeah. So my grandfather, basically his first job as a teenager was sweeping the floors in a butcher shop in San Francisco.
In the city itself.
In the city itself. Yeah. The market was called Grant Market. And so he pretty much rose through the ranks to the point where he took over the shop. But he was trained in butchery from a pair of French brothers. And so he trained in the European style of butchery, which is a little bit different than how we do it in America. And also what they did back then was a lot of dry aging. And so they would bring in whole carcass, they would dry age in-house, move whole animal, which in today's industry is really difficult to do.
Mm-hmm.
But they had a single butcher shop in San Francisco moving 30 head a week, which is insane. The amount of ground beef, pot roasts. They had one employee whose single job was to produce corned beef 5 days a week.
Wow.
That's it. That's all you do.
Is this like the 1950s, 1960s?
50s, 60s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, that was the day. Dad will tell the story better, because it's a little bit more his era. But, when you had the wife of the household, jump on the trolley car and go out to the market and buy everything they needed for a week, and so you had a lot more, I guess, like stew style meat consumption in those days. People did a lot of pot roasts, much more so than they did nowadays, which is, you're able to do when you're doing whole cattle.
And there's a Flannery Beef that still exists in San Francisco, but that's not connected to you guys.
It's called Brian's Market.
Uh-huh.
I believe I should know the exact name,
Yeah.
but it's Brian's, and it's in Laurel Village in San Francisco, and it's still run by my two uncles.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, interestingly enough, my cousin has just joined there as well. So now she's a third generation
Mm-hmm.
in the beef industry in the city. So my dad split from the family, opened a retail shop in Marin County, had, a gorgeous butcher case, some high-end deli foods. But again, the focus for Dad was always on trying to find the best quality of beef that he could. And so he was always kind of looking for the top, what is hands down the best you can get your hands on. And then how do you make it better through the dry aging process and then through the butchery?
There are not many women in the meat world, I would say. I mean, there's a handful, I think, of... So was this something that you've always wanted to do since you've grown up, or
No.
did you have dreams of working?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
No, I tried to get as far away from my family as I could. I studied art history in college. Thank you very much. I failed chemistry twice in a row. So I am not like a scientific person in any way, shape, or form. But I got pulled back into the family business after the 2008 economic downturn. It really hit Dad's retail business. I didn't know what I was doing in college, like asking my parents to pay for a degree in art history. That was a big ask. So Dad basically said, hey, look, why don't you take a year off? Come back. I want to start a website. Why don't you help me figure out how to sell beef online and do a crash course in business that way? Teach yourself.
Yeah.
And I jumped at the opportunity and fell in love with it that way. And just kind of took it and ran with it.
Wow, that's amazing. So you
Yeah.
came in from this from a totally different angle. I would have expected you were standing by Dad at the butcher table and he handed you a knife and then said,
You were
"Here,
putting meat in the
this
grinder.
is the make the hamburgers."
No. I mean, that's the problem, I guess, if you will, with growing up in a family business is you feel like you don't have a choice.
Right.
right?
But you had a choice.
To some degree, but like come Christmas time retail, nobody had a choice.
Right.
Mom's working at the business,
Right.
you know?
Sure.
So it was a pushback. But,
So when did you start playing around with the mold?
the more responsibilities that Dad gave me, I would ask, okay, why do we do it this way? And maybe it's just like middle child syndrome. I would always question what he told me. I never believed what he said. And so I'd try to like prove him wrong half the time. And so it really just kind of got me down this rabbit hole of experimenting myself, trying to find a bunch of research papers, just get the answer for what's actually happening here. Because he learned everything from his father and had this almost like innate knowledge, but I wanted the scientific answer.
Yeah.
Let's talk something really basic. Why do people dry age beef? Why do we need to dry age it?
Yeah, you kind of said something about how it was more European, I guess, or
what does it do to the meat? Why are we doing that?
It used to be a necessity in order to give you a longer period of time to move a full carcass.
like preservation.
Preservation.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right? You hang the carcass, you take a piece at a time. The exterior of the carcass will protect the meat on the interior. And so you're trimming away when you're ready to move on to the next piece. You know, you're trimming the exterior, that's preserved. That's what made dry aging, I guess, a necessity.
So let's talk a little bit about, again, let's jump into that mold conversation. What, you say the word mold and food and people kind of cringe.
Scary.
They get nervous. It's bacteria. It's, fungus.
Can you reassure us, Katie?
What are the molds specifically, and what's their effect on flavor, and how do you get the mold into your those rooms?
By the grace
Does it
of
happen
God.
naturally, yeah?
Yeah, no, some of it is going to be just natural. It's going to be time. They're going to most likely originate on product that you're bringing in, but then depending on how you handle your rooms, you can either, eradicate any sort of mold growth, or you can let it flourish. We chose the latter path of really encouraging the mold growth and safety, food safety, because you're right, that is a big one. And I think, interestingly enough, we will see it even with our USDA inspectors, because we're a USDA facility. So we have inspectors come on site every single day. They switch out every 6 months. We one time had an inspector walk in, say, "Hi, I'm your new inspector. Let me, see your spot here." We open the door to the dry aging room, and he just gasps, takes a step back and says, "We have a problem here. This entire room needs to be condemned. This is all spoiled product." He actually said, I remember this. He said, "You can smell the problem in here." I said, "Bro, this smells great."
Right.
You've got a problem.
Right.
There's mold on this meat.
We're going to lock this guy in the room.
I know it. He even pulled out. They always carry these little USDA rejected tags. So he was about to reject all of this product. I was like, whoa. Okay, we need to hit the pause button here and have a discussion. Because there's not as much research into the safety aspect of mold as there is into bacteria. Because two totally different things, right? Bacteria, single-celled organism, mold, multi-cell. In the beef world and a lot of the protein world, there is this research paper called the Tompkin paper, maybe I just call it the Tompkin paper, that basically lists out the temperatures at which you need to keep product under to prevent the growth of pathogenic bacteria. And so that's what a lot of plants will use basically as their justification.
Like the temperature danger zone.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of saying, okay, if I am keeping product constantly below 44.6 degrees, I know that we're mitigating the risk of pathogenic bacteria, so we're cool here. That's my plan. There's no Tompkin paper equivalent for mold. And so there's not an easy way for a plant to justify to the USDA the quote unquote safety of the mold. And they will not accept a lack of evidence of illnesses linked to dry aged beef as justification to say there is no potential risk of dry aged beef. If that makes sense.
It
Yeah.
makes total sense.
Total. So what would you call the flavor profile of, I guess, your dry aged beef?
I think approachable, nutty, warm. I don't know. I was thinking colors. I feel like because the East Coast dry aged beef, that's like an angry blue, right?
Mhm.
Ours is like a warm red.
Yeah.
I like that.
It's an approachable flavor that, I mean, I'll joke and I'll call our 14-day dry age the Goldilocks of dry age, because it's got just the right amount of flavor where if you've never had dry aged beef, you're not going to be off put. And if you do enjoy dry aged beef, there's enough flavor there that you appreciate it.
And
What is the minimum and maximum days of age that you'll put on a Flannery steak?
Minimum is 14. So we always open, at the end of the week and start cutting when primals are 14. So something that I call a 14 technically might be an 18, don't kill me on that. Maximum, we do a 28 as our max for restaurant customers. On our retail for website, we go like 30, 35, just put a little bit more on there because those are consumers that are really, they know what they want.
Yeah.
They want that flavor development.
Do you dry age? So New York strip is obviously a very popular cut of steak for dry age, ribeye. What else is dry aged?
So you can do whatever you want, right? It's really just a question of what's worth it at the end of the day, because dry aging is a destructive process. You have a lot of moisture loss and you have a lot of trim loss. And for example, like a fillet, you don't dry age a fillet because it's a very expensive cut to begin with. It's incredibly tender to begin with. And when the packing house produces a fillet, a Pismo, there's no protective covering on it. It doesn't have bone. It doesn't have fat, a little bit of silver skin. But so when you dry age a fillet, you're trimming 360 degrees all the way around that.
You're going to have like nothing.
Super, super tiny.
Yeah.
And, you double your cost into the stratosphere.
Right.
And yes, I've done it. It's good. Cooked, I thought it was okay. Raw, it was like freaking amazing.
Say like a carpaccio would probably be like ridiculous.
It would be amazing.
Yeah.
But you could get really close to it with something an eighth of the price.
Right.
And so that's kind of the question that you have to ask yourself. Yes, I can do this. You can do whatever you want, but is somebody going to pay for it? Because we actually for our retail website, we've been dry aging hanger steak, which is typically a steak that you would not dry age. And it's a good end product. I like it. We have a lot of great reception on our website. But when chefs ask me, can I get a sample of that? I'm kind of honest and say, you don't want this, because the increase in the flavor doesn't necessarily justify the increase in the price in a restaurant setting. You've got to make your numbers on that plate. It's
Sure.
difficult to do.
Yeah.
I said it before. I'm going to say it again. She is the dry age queen, Katie Flannery, a Flannery Beef. Website is www.flannerybeef.com.
Yep.
The Instagram is at
Flannery
Flannery
Beef.
Beef. Go on, watch the reels, check out Katie in action.
And if you have an
It's quite
opportunity to
simply
eat this beef,
the best dry aged beef
you'll
I've
ever
ever
have.
had. Thanks for listening to this episode of Ingredient Insiders. Follow us on Instagram at Ingredient Insiders. You can find the products we discussed on today's episode at chefswarehouse.com or at your favorite specialty retailer.